And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and we're going to take a look at High Noon Saloon, a 2 to 6 player game from Slugfest Games, and this is exactly what this game is, a slugfest. Each player is some type of cowboy or cowgirl in a saloon trying to win a shootout and a melee between all of the other players who are there. So real quick, we'll take a look at what you get inside this box and how the game plays, and then I'll come back here and give you my final opinions on it. Here you can see the components for High Noon Saloon, and this is basically going to be a game in which you're trying to pump your opponents full of bullets in order to kill them and remove them from the game. So this is a player elimination game. So each player is going to be represented by a character, and you'll see we have character cards here. On one side of them, they just have an image, which you can use for a simpler game, or on the other side, you'll see they have an image and some text. And that text is going to give you a special ability in the game. So, for example, we have Lisa Barstock here who says, whenever you make a gun attack, you can use +1 bullet to add +1 attack, or you can use +2 bullets to add +2 attack. Add 1 to the value of cards you reveal from the load deck, so she gets more bullets too. So let's say we're this character. She starts with 20 hit points, and that's indicated by her little marker here. We would take her and we would put her out on the board during our setup turn, and she would start somewhere out on the board. So maybe she decides to start over here behind the piano. Now, this is part of a setup turn, and everyone's going to have 7 cards at the beginning of the game. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these cards are going to be various different types of things. We'll have weapons. This one here is a melee weapon. It's a Bowie knife. And it has a 4 attack, and it says, or you can drop it to make a +3 gun attack, so basically you throw the knife at somebody. The attack cannot be affected by attack enhancement cards or cover defense. So you'll have weapons like this. You'll also have ranged weapons like the 6-shooter here that says if you use 1 bullet it does 1 damage, 2 bullets do 2 damage, and if you want you can do 2 bullets to do 1 damage to 2 different targets. You can also use it as a melee weapon in order to hit somebody with it, so you pistol whip them. But these are going to be weapons. You'll see I have several weapons here. I have some enhancements for attacks. They're going to make my attacks stronger or give them different effects. This one enhances a melee attack by making it 2 stronger. And this one enhances a melee attack by making it 1 stronger and forces your opponent to drop their weapon. So, at the beginning of the game, we have a setup round in which I'm allowed to equip a couple of weapons. So maybe I put my Bowie knife in my hand, and I put my 6-shooter in my holster. Now, when you play a gun to the table, you're going to do what's called load the gun, and you reveal 1 card from this load deck, and we'd see I get 1 measly bullet. Now, I would take one of these markers and I'd put it on here and show that I have 1 bullet, but my character's special ability is that she gets an extra one, so she gets 2 bullets for her gun. And once it's empty, it's kind of useless, so she'll probably drop it, or maybe she'll reload. It's a possibility, but after you've set up, and everyone will set up, so maybe we have another character over here on top, and another one over here. After you've set up, everybody's going to start their normal game. And you're going to do this in phases. So basically, on your turn, you're going to have a hand of cards, and you can discard any or all of your cards in order to draw more cards. But you're going to draw up to 7. So I've played 2, I'll draw 2 more. At that point, you're going to move on to the weapon phase. So you can move weapons around. You can only holster things that have a holster icon on them. So I couldn't holster my Bowie knife, but I could drop it and move my 6-shooter up there in order to have my gun ready. But you can do that at any point, really. You can quick draw in order to do that, but you have to drop your weapon. I could also decide to play new weapons from my hand. So if I'd rather have, for example, my double-barreled shotgun, I could drop my Bowie knife, put the double-barreled shotgun on, and reload it. But basically, this is the point where you're going to be moving weapons around, adding them, removing them, whatever the case may be. But after that, you're going to move on to what's called the jump phase. Now, if you don't like where you're at, you can always jump to the middle, and you're now in the no-cover area. And these areas are important because from some of them you can hit other areas, but from some of them you can't. And it doesn't really matter for ranged weaponry. You can shoot anywhere on the board, but for melee combat, you can only hit areas where these little arrows on the board, they're going to be really hard to see, but there are little arrows pointing back and forth. And for example, from here, there are arrows pointing to every one of these rooms except for the upstairs balcony. So you can hit anybody from melee from here, but if you're in behind the player piano, where this player is, they can't hit anyone in melee. They're blocked from everybody by melee, but can take pot shots at them with weapons. So if you want, you can jump out to here, and you'd be able to melee with anyone, but you're going to have no cover which are bonuses from being in specific areas on the board. You can see here, +1 defense, +2 defense, +3 defense, 1, 2. And up here there's no defense bonus, but you can get an attack bonus for jumping down. So, basically, you're going to have players distributed, and if you want, you can make a jump to the center so you can melee with people. After that, you're going to move on to the fighting phase, and at this point you get to decide who you want to attack and how you want to attack them. So maybe we have our character back here, and she wants to shoot at the person back here. Well, she decides that she's going to take a shot, and she's only going to use 1 bullet. So she uses 1 bullet and decides to attack here. That gives her an attack of 1. But she can play bonuses from her hand in order to make that attack stronger, if she has any. Well, she has a +1 bullseye, so maybe she would play her bullseye out, and this would add +1 to her attack. So now it's at 2. She could spend another bullet from here to add another 1 to the attack, but she could have done that there. So she wouldn't do that. Right now she has an attack of 2. In addition, she could use this one here, which says, I'm a-calling you out. And it says, this attack may target any player on the board. You and the targeted player move to no cover before determining the damage of the defense. If it's your turn, you have restricted movement. So you could take this and play it out. It would move everybody to this area, which would get rid of her defense bonus. And you have restricted movement, which I'll cover in a moment. So maybe you play these 2 cards. You're now shooting at her with a 2. And she is now out in the open. At this point, she has the option of playing defense cards from her hand, if she has any. Now, defense cards will look like this. They have a shield in the top left-hand corner. This one is a melee defense, but there are also ranged defense cards, which would give you a bonus to your defense. But after they've played their 1 defense card, and you've played all of your attack bonus cards and calculated any bonuses you get from here, you're going to be able to deal damage. So I'm attacking with 2, and she's defending with none. She doesn't have any defense cards, so she would take 2 damage. And on her track here, she would mark down 2 grit that she'd taken. And if you go down to 0, you're going to die. But that's basically how that works. After you've made your attack, and you can either make an ranged attack to anywhere, or a melee attack to somebody in the same spot, or to somebody who's in one of the reachable areas from where you're at, you're going to move to the hunkering down phase. Now, this is where restricted movement comes into play. Normally, each player would be flipped to this side, but if they moved, like I showed you with that card, to this area, you now have what's called restricted movement. You have this orange. And that means that you can move, but you can only move to a circle of one of these orange colors. So I could either move behind the upended table, or I can move onto the stairs. And those would give me a little bit of cover, but they really limit my movement. If you don't have restricted movement, which generally happens from a card, or if you decide earlier to jump to no cover during that jump phase, you can move anywhere you want. So, for example, if I hadn't had restricted movement, I could jump behind the bar, and that would be useful for me. After that phase, you're going to move on to a second weapons phase. So you can, again, shift your weapons. So if she had shot with that weapon, she'd have had to put this here, and she'd have dropped her Bowie knife earlier, and she'd have been taking shots and would have not had her knife anymore. So now she could re-equip more weapons. So she'd look through her hand again, and maybe she wants to put a double-barreled shotgun out. She can't holster it, so maybe she drops her 6-shooter, she puts out a double-barreled shotgun. Again, she loads it, and she gets 4 bullets. Well, it can only hold 2 bullets, so she doesn't get the extra one. But she has got a new weapon now, and she'll be prepared for her next turn. After that, you're going to move to the next player's turn, and they're going to have the option of doing all the same things. They're going to get more cards, they're going to equip weapons, move around, take shots, or hit people in order to try and deal them damage using the cards in their hand. Now, there are a couple of special board features on here. If you end your turn behind the player piano, you find 2 bullets, as long as you're alone. If you end behind the bar, you heal 2 grit, as long as you are alone. And if you want to, during the jump down phase, you may jump from the balcony into the no cover area, and you get a +2 attack bonus to whoever's in that area. So, moving down from that area, you kind of jump down from the balcony and punch them, and you can do some extra damage. In addition, there's a -2 attacking from the back room, there's some plus defenses from several different areas, and there's a plus attack from the upstairs balcony if you're making a shot. So, there's all kinds of different things going on this board to give you a bonus to your attack, to give you an advantage over your opponent, but a lot of it's going to fall to the cards you have in hand and the use of your special ability and the luck of the draw. Well, there you have it. That is High Noon Saloon, a very highly luck-driven game, but one that is amusing to me for some reason. Now, I guess I can kind of explain it. The amusement comes from, one, the quick and light-hearted nature of the game. You're shooting at people, you're moving around, you're punching them. Sometimes you hit them with a bourbon bottle, you jump down from a balcony and smack them, or you shoot them from behind the bar. It's all just, very Western, comedic almost action. On top of that, even though it's luck-driven, as I said, it plays quickly. The cards are somewhat funny. They're all kind of Western-y sayings, "I'ma get ya," and "throw them out the window," and stuff like that. So it's all very entertaining in that aspect. It's not a game to be taken seriously in terms of strategy. The cards can definitely go against you, but if you're looking for a light-hearted Slugfest, check out High Noon Saloon from Slugfest Games.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.